you from Hardy, Arkansas, home of Spring River, this is Ridge Runner Reports, a podcast that will help clear the white noise in medicine and politics and help you to find the forest from the trees. Direct from Ridge Runner Studios, here is your host, Big Dave Ezel.
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing today? I trust everybody had a good week. Today is October the 1st, 2022. It has taken a few years for the dust to settle since they passed the American Care Act, or Obamacare. And the very first opinion I had of it was that everybody that was supporting it were selfish. They were still using something as important as our health care to reappropriate taxes from most American workers to the wealthy and the wheeler dealers like themselves. We'll call them the modern day robber barons of healthcare. In medieval times, a robber baron was a noble who robbed, often through tariffs and tolls, that travelers that passed through lands they weren't normally in. Today, we pretty much apply it to those who get wealthy by taking from others. And if you think your healthcare choices are part of a service to the people, then you are mistaken. It's not a service at all, it's a monopoly. The foundations of our modern medicine delivery system was founded by two robber barons that I can done the research on this week. We will delve into that a lot deeper, but first we got to get a word from my sponsor at Rocking Magnolia Customs.
Do you have a friend or family member you're having trouble buying a gift for? You just can't find the right gift for the person who has everything? Then go to Rockin' Magnolia Customs, a place where you can pick out and design the perfect gift for that special someone. That's rockinmagnoliacustoms.com, or find them on Facebook at Rockin' Magnolia Customs.
And that's Rockin' Magnolia Customs. Online 24 hours a day to find that perfect gift for the one you having trouble buying for. That's Rockin' Magnolia Customs. There's no G on the rockin', and there's no K and there's no C in customs. So the business story of Western medicine in the modern sense starts with Rockefeller, John D. He is widely considered the most wealthiest American of all time, probably the richest person in our modern history. He is most famous for securing a monopoly in the oil market, but you have not heard the rest of the story. By the turn of the 20th century, Rockefeller controlled 90% of all the petroleum refineries in America. That was Standard Oil. When they took him to court and they busted up Standard Oil, it was Mobil, Exxon, Chevron, Standard. He'd already had ownership of these. He just right man, right place, right time. But he was only worried about getting rich. The science world at this time in the early 1900s was excited about the petrochemicals because they were able to create some new compounds at that time derived from those petrochemicals, which of course was plastic. But the organic chemists knew that oil had a potential to create more than just plastic and plastic toys. Scientists were at that time trying to understand the basic mechanics of life and human health. The most essential vitamins were discovered during the early 1900s: thiamine, B2, biotin, vitamin C, A, and D. And by identifying these vitamins, science took a huge step toward treating simple conditions that were caused by vitamin deficiencies, like scurvy and rickets. And of course, scientists were also involved in research to recreate the synthetic versions of these vitamins in the lab. In 1935, 36, 37, somewhere along there, vitamin C became the first vitamin to be synthesized. And when Rockefeller heard that, he was smart enough to see this as a big opportunity to get involved in the pharmaceutical corporation. Okay? And with the petroleum that he had, he figured out that he had a chance to control and monopolize multiple industries at one time: petroleum, chemical, and medical. And of course, the petrochemicals were all his anyway. They were an ideal business perspective because each of the things derived from the petrochemicals could be patented separately. And then he could sell the patents for whatever somebody was willing to pay for them. And up until the point in the early 1900s, 19-teens, natural and herbal medicines were popular. That's what everybody was used to using. I read somewhere that at one point there was a town somewhere in the Midwest that required every person to have a weeping willow tree in their yard, because weeping willow trees helped with headaches, helped with chest pains. What we found out later was weeping willow plants where the aspirin derivative and the coumadin or warfarin aspirin derivative come from is the weeping willow tree bark. So if you had one in your yard, you walk up, fleck a piece of bark, chew on the bark a few minutes, and then throw the bark away, and your headache would be gone, or your toothache would be gone. So they required them. I'm sure a lot of people bled to death because they didn't know how it worked, but they knew enough about it to know that it would help with your headaches and help with if you're having chest pain all the time. Of course it would. It was thinning the blood or keeping the platelets from sticking together. Rockefeller knew that at that time, to get total control of the medical industry, because remember, he was a monopolist to begin with. So medicine was scattered everywhere about. You had naturopathy, you had herbalopathy, you had traveling practitioners. Of course, a lot of them sold snake oil. But you had all these different, osteopathy, chiropractic, all of that was practiced back then. You think dietetics is a new field. It's not a new field. They were doing that way before Rockefeller got a hold of it. And when I tell you who his partner ends up being, you might be a little agitated. Rockefeller's first move was to use his vast wealth from the oil that he had, and he went over and purchased the German pharmaceutical company IG Farben. Now, let's talk about this purchase that he made of IG Farben. This company down the road, and their involvement in World War II, and they had ties to the Germans' People Party. And of course the Nazis came in and they accused them of being a capitalist Jewish company. 10 years down the road, it ended up being a major Nazi party donor. And after the takeover of Germany in 1933, it was a major government contractor. And keep in mind, this was 1933 when they became a government contractor. Throughout that 33 to the end of the 30s, it purged itself of its Jewish employees. We're talking about Farber here. The most notorious German industrial concern during the Third Reich was IG Farber. In the beginning of the 40s, they relied on slave labor from the concentration camp, and they had about 30,000 workers from Auschwitz. It was involved in all these medical experiments too. There was a substance that they built called Zyklon B. It killed over 1 million people in the gas chambers. During the Holocaust. At the end of the war, of course, Allies seized the company, and at the end of the war, the U.S. authorities put its directors on trial. They held those trials from 47 to 48. There was 23 of the directors, all tried for war crimes. About half of them were convicted. By 51, though, our own High Commissioner at the time over Germany, because we were helping them rebuild. I'll tell you what the name of that was in a minute. It was John McCloy, and West Germany, the public in West Germany, and the government of West Germany that had been put in place, got our High Commissioner over them to release him from prison. What remained of IG Farben in the West, in America, was split into 6 constituent companies by themselves, and then a couple of the companies merged. One was called BASF, and I know you know that company. Bayer, Bayer, Bayer Pharmaceuticals, and Hoechst. I'll give you that name that they became in a minute. You're very familiar with them too. Especially if you're in the medical field, you know exactly what this company turns out to be, and why it's so important right now. They became an informal cartel. The Wirtschaftswunder, or Miracle on the Rhine is what it translates to. It was a reconstruction and development of the economies of Germany and Austria after World War II, and these companies were at the forefront of this rebuilding effort. Now, how pharmaceutical companies play into a rebuilding effort after a major war had occurred in Germany. And now we got to back up into the 1910s, 1908 to 1913, to get an idea of why this happened in Germany when it happened. Well, let me tell you who these companies end up becoming. So we'll go from 1955 or 56 in the West, in America. And you've got these 3 companies. Well, today's modern equivalents of all these companies, this is their history. They remained a company, BASF. I know I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I remember seeing the cassette tapes with BASF on them. I've traveled enough around the country, I've seen the box cars on the railroads with BASF on them. They're a massively huge company. Bayer is a massively huge company. The one that I said that slaughtered the German name for, Hoechst, ends up becoming Sanofi. Sanofi is one of the largest producers of the influenza vaccine in America. Sanofi was also Sanofi Pasteur, which was a major, major drug company. The other one that came out of all of this, and keep in mind, this is 2022, is called AGFA. And if you are in the healthcare industry, especially if you work in nursing homes or you work in the acute care sector, when you go to look at an x-ray on your computerized charting, AGFA is the company that makes that zero viewer. So every time you go to look at an x-ray, this is the company's product that you're using. Now you see how it all ties all the way back to now. Everything keeps coming full circle. That's how everything works. It cycles. When I was growing up, I had a mullet. My youngest son has now decided, or both of my kids have decided they both want mullets, so they both have mullets. I did not know how atrocious they looked, because I thought it was cool when I had one, but I have learned better. But everything cycles. All of it cycles. The Frankfurt, Germany, University at Frankfurt, in Frankfurt, Germany, They had still kept the head office of I.G. Farben, and they used to display historical facts or something. Anyway, they've now built Norbert Wallam, who is a big advocate for making a memorial to the slave laborers, or the prisoners of war slaves, and the people killed by the same man that owned that office inside the University of Frankfurt as Zyklon B. That's a type of cyanide gas. But Zyklon B is what Farben is famous for. This is the same company that Rockefeller, an American, bought. And so now let's go back. Just take me back into the 1900s, and I'll start there, and we'll come forward again with the people involved. In the early 1900s, there was, like I said, different treatment modalities in America. Chiropractic, naturopathy, homeopathy, holistic medicine, herbal medicine, osteopathy. There was all of these different types of medicine, and people knew what they were looking for, and they would just go find it or find somebody that practiced it. I'm sure there were several people that went to the Native American tribes and had their shamans heal them too. But in order for Mr. Rockefeller to be able to get rid of the competition, he had to eliminate them. So how did he do it? He hired a contractor named Abraham Flexner, and he presented a report to Congress. And in this report that Rockefeller paid for is called the Flexner Report. The Flexner Report changed Western medicine forever. This was 1910. This is 2022. That's 110 years ago. Or 112 years ago. There were too many doctors, is what this report found. Too many medical schools in all of America. The natural healing modalities is what they were practicing. They were stated in this report to be unscientific quackery. This report called for the standardized medical education, where only the AMA would be allowed to grant medical school licensure in the United States. And when I say that, only the AMA, guess what? They are also a monopoly. Although Flexner's report did have some valid points, the motives for this report is driven by Rockefeller's desire for control of the medical system. And based on this report, Congress acted on the Flexner's report and recommendation and changed the laws related to medical practice. Period. Allopathic medicine became the standard modality. That's what we use now is allopathic. You come in with a complaint, we treat the symptoms, send you home. And allopathic medicine, and so some of these modalities back then, I mean, we're talking about bloodletting. Surgeries that they did back in there, they were horrendously bad. So the allopathic rule helped advance this stuff to an extent, but I mean, you didn't have to worry about going to the doctor and getting lead and mercury injected into your system to offset your disease pattern. So allopathic medicine became the standard, and that's what we do now. The problem is the difference between, as it had been explained to me, and it makes really sense. There's a difference between doctors. There are people that are called doctors, and then there are people that we call physicians. Now, the doctors are the ones that still practice medicine, and the physicians are the ones you go to when you want to get healed. That's why there's a difference there, and what we're actually doing is describing exactly what I've just explained. And that's the difference between being healed and being treated. And we all say, well, we got to go to our doctor, so we got to get treated. And we say it, but we don't know where it came from. We're just saying it because that's what we've heard. Well, that's what Rockefeller wanted you to hear, and you're still listening to it. I'm not saying that all doctors are practicing. Most of them are, but not all of them are. So once the Congress put all these new laws in place, Rockefeller needed a partner. So he sent a horse and carriage or buggy, or maybe picked up a phone box. I don't know. But he called what used to be would buy the gas from him for his steel industry was Andrew Carnegie. So he gets with Carnegie. Keep in mind, these are 2 of the 4 robber barons of the time. We've just exchanged 4 of them for 535 of them. So Rockefeller and Carnegie together started funding all these medical schools on the strict condition, if they wanted their money, they could only teach allopathic medicine. Through the power of their grant system, and we still have them today, they dismantled the previous curriculum that they were taught, whether it was OJT or they went to actual school in the East. And they dismantled the criteria. There was no mention of healing power of herbs or natural treatments. Teaching on diets and natural treatments were completely removed. After removing the traditional medicine from all the medical schools, Rockefeller made sure to secure his monopoly. At this point is when he put a straight smear campaign against every competitor that was out there. Homeopathist, naturopathist, homeopathic, all discredited and demonized. He ran ads in the paper. He used any other types of media at the time. There were some doctors that were jailed for using natural treatments, including treatments that were safe for decades. And in just a short time, all these medical schools had been washed, pasteurized, and homogenized. They have been cleaned of all of the what they called impurities at the time. And we went from going to get a physician to heal us to allopathic medicine, and that's basically, we have a pill for any ill. And that's where we're at today. Everybody in this country now thinks there is a pill that's going to fix any problem you've got. And if you've got that theory in your head, welcome to Rockefeller's world, because that's what you're living in. A pill for any ill. That was Rockefeller's entire episode for monopolizing it. It's been the entire episode for our government to take it over with the American Health Care Act. Any competition that popped up, and they're still doing it today, they crushed any grassroots unfunded effort by using their money. This system continues today. There's still Big Pharma. We've heard that hollered forever and ever. It's really been real on the news the last 2 years, and we all know why. These pharmaceutical corporations make huge donations in medical school, and the school teaches the students to use the patented drugs that they've got the grant from. For years, alternative treatments were criminalized. Here's one I found doing the research. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've been through it. I've seen it. Did you know that it was illegal to treat cancer with any modality except chemotherapy, surgery, or radiation? In some states, it's actually a criminal felony for a medical practitioner to treat cancer with anything but these 3 modalities. Why is that the case? What about this is so shocking, because I was shocked when I read it, but after I sat and thought about it, having been through it myself, did you know that the average cost of a cancer treatment for just a 6-week cycle is anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000? Now we know why Rockefeller and Carnegie were trying to keep the monopoly. And do you know what else John D. Rockefeller founded? While he was doing all of this other medicine, manipulating our systems, changing everything over, trying to manipulate you into going to get treated instead of healed. In 1913, John Rockefeller gave the money and founded the American Cancer Society. Now, isn't it funny that the society that pays for the medicine and helps people out that have cancer and helps pay for some of the medicines and pays for some of the services and pays for hotel rooms and pays for transportation back and forth, was founded by the same guy that just taken over the pharmaceutical and the medical industry. And now we're back to feeding each other, kind of like the government does with all this money from the Ukraine. Instead of sinking it into our system that's failing now, they want it to collapse. See, your health care is a fraud. It was built on fraud. It's based on fraud. There's not many physicians left in this country. There's plenty of doctors, but there are no physicians left in this country, hardly. And that's the fault of the American government. The same people that use healthcare is always, in every political race that I've watched that had any national implications, healthcare is always at the forefront. And then right behind that is Veterans Affairs, because they want to take care of the sick and the old and the veterans and the young, and we're not doing any of it. Not a damn bit. The government's been trying for 10 years now to take over the healthcare industry because they want part of that, the 20% of the GDP. It's really 4% of the GDP, but healthcare, but you're talking about $4 trillion. Yeah, $4 trillion. That's with a T. That's what the healthcare industry puts into the economy every year, is $4 trillion. And the government has control of the air, water, all of your natural resources. We call that the EPA. That's 20% of the GDP is environmental. All right, and then another 20% is the food industry. They control the farmers. They control what the farmers grow. They regulate and they subsidize all of that. And we sat in here with people that's dying from simple stuff that we had 100 years ago that we don't have today. There was a video that surfaced on TikTok where the Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin or one of them they were asked about why we didn't go back to the moon. In the middle of all of this, for all you conspiracy theorists that don't think we landed, he said something in there that was profound. Whether it was true or not, or it was a put-together video or not, this statement is profound. He said, we had the technology to get to the moon in the 60s, but we can't get back there because we lost the technology. It's the same things happened in medicine. You think that the Native Americans and the native peoples of the United States lived and survived all these centuries before any Europeans got over here, and that we saved them? Hell no, we killed them out. As soon as we got over here, we killed them out. Because we brought disease processes that weren't native here that are now. We brought the measles, we brought chicken pox, we brought sheep pox, we brought all these goats over here and brought anthrax with us. I mean, everybody talks about it, just get it out there. I mean, it's the truth. But you think they survived all the hundreds of years before the Europeans got here? And the slaves got here? And the African slaves got here? You think really and truly that those people were just existing and they didn't have any kind of health care before then? Hell yeah, they did. And all of them worked. They lived. They were huge, huge. The Aztecs were huge. The Mayans were huge. They had health care. And some of that we have lost. We had the technology maybe to heal cancer, but we lost it because dumbasses like Rockefeller and dumbasses like Carnegie, and I'm not talking about their ability to make money, I'm talking about their ability to only see money. Because see, they didn't care about anything but themselves. They were narcissists. All the robber barons were narcissists. All 535 members of Congress are narcissists. And I don't care if the three that I know up there listening to this episode or not, y'all are narcissists. Y'all have a little bit of power over a bunch of people, and you try to use that to your advantage. That's y'all's job. That's what you 535 members of Congress do, because you sure as hell ain't looking out for the people out here. You sure as hell ain't trying to get nurses and healthcare professionals inside the system. No, you're sending money over to fucking Ukraine over something we don't know what's really going on over there, and you think we're supposed to sit back and twiddle our thumbs and wait for you to get it done, and that's not the case at all. Your last effort you got, the last line of defense y'all have protecting y'all with your health care between the government and the people are the nurses and some of the doctors, but everybody else in health care. That's the only line of defense you got between the government trying to kill you. And before y'all get all into the ones that don't agree or disagree or whatever, every nurse in here that was told to give a shot was told to do it. I know that when people refused, I just sent it to my supervisor because that's how you're supposed to do it. I didn't give that many, but I did give some. Oh, well, they made you be involved in it. You're just as guilty for not doing it. Well, that's why this past month they have said in North Carolina that nurses could be sued for following doctor's orders. Well, guess who the scapegoats are going to be when all of this other is proven that these side effects the nurses did, they knew better. Well, now the federal court or the state judicial Supreme Court in North Carolina has paved the way for every nurse in this country to be sued for following doctor's orders and doing our fucking job. And the left thinks that's perfectly fucking okay. Well, I'm telling you what's perfectly going to fucking happen is you're not going to have any nurses left. And the ones that you do have, I've already seen what's being produced out of certain nursing schools in certain parts of the country now, and it ain't going to be pretty. Nursing schools don't even teach nursing anymore. They teach nursing students how to take a test so they can get a nursing license at the end of it. Our award system in the field has gone to shit and has been reversed. They don't have these survey teams that go in. Those survey teams that go in used to go in and they would help you out and they would give you advice and they would, try to help you fix a problem they found before they left. That's how surveyors used to do buildings. Now they're told you go get as much fine money as you can. So what they do is they take all these little mountains, all these little molehill and blow them up to mountains. And the stuff that are mountain, they just stare off to the side. Do you know you get in more trouble for having a drink at a nurse's station? Even with a lid on it, you get in more trouble for having a drink at the fucking nurse's station than you do for a nurse that killed a patient because something else went wrong in the system. No, let's blame the nurses. They're drinking at the nurse's station. That's what caused them to... Did you see where it don't make sense? Do you see why nurses are quitting left and right? Because we've got a system that's built in a monopoly phase. It's built that way. It's designed that way. And Rockefeller and Carnegie designed it. And the federal government tried to take a lesson and know what to do. But they're not smart collectively, and they sure as hell ain't smart singularly. We have the most, by cost, the United States healthcare system costs the most in the world. Do you know where we're ranked in the world for our healthcare services? 37. We rank behind 4 third world countries in our healthcare modalities. We have the most expensive 37th place healthcare in the world. It's different when you look at it that way, isn't it? And for what? So they can't treat us alternatively medicine when we have cancer? Hell no, because they're not going to go to jail either. They're not going to tell you to go find a naturopathist and change your diet and go find somebody that's got... Why do you think all medical schools and the AMA and everybody is against, for instance, hemp? Why are they against THC? Because it's natural and they can't control it. And they found a way to synthesize it, but they can't synthesize it. It won't replicate itself unless it's grown naturally. So God got the last laugh on that, didn't he? They cannot synthetically produce THC to get the same effects as the plant gives them. So, of course, they fight everything with THC. I am a proponent for medical marijuana. It should be used as such. We have the technology right now in America to design weed to fix a problem. We know the different strains. We know what the different terpenes are. We know what the percentages are. We know that there's THCA and THCB, and we know that there's CBDA and CBDB. We also know that if we cross the marijuana and the hemp plant, we get CBG, which is a phenomenal treatment in childhood pediatric cancer nausea. But they cannot tell you to use it, and the hospitals won't. Until you held a little baby in your arms puking from fucking chemo, don't get on me about getting passionate about it. Till you held the hands of an elderly woman getting the worst 3 chemotherapy drugs on the market to treat breast cancer, and she's puking and puking and puking, and every time she pukes she has diarrhea, and you can't stop it. But I know that there's a drug out there that's not verified by science. It's not verified by the FDA because they've got the studies, but they sealed them. And yet you got people out there in Congress because they won't get to make no money off of it because it'll be considered a supplement. Let the states decide what they want to treat their patients with, and let the federal government go to hell. It's time to go back in and change these rules. It's been past time to go change these rules. This is all government's attempt to take over this fucking country. Because what happens when you start deteriorating the health care? Because, of the 5 things you have to survive, health care is number 4. You got the food, air. You got to have air. You got to have food. And when air means water. So, I'm talking about the environmental stuff. You got to have shelter. So that covers all the environment. So let's see. So the government has control of the environment. The government has control of industry. OSHA, all of these groups, these alphabet groups for every factor of our lives. They've got control of that. Food, they control the food. They control what the farmers can grow. Because if we don't have farmers, guess what, folks? We don't eat anything. If we don't have farmers, you don't get cornstarch in the store. You're going to have to grow your own corn. Oh, wait, they'll get you for that now. Look what they're doing to the Amish. The Department of Agriculture is destroying these Amish organic farms up here. I'll just let y'all know that now. It's starting to show, too, what they're doing. So, yeah, believe it or not, there's Amish country in southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. They're Amish and Mennonites, and everybody just gets along just fine, and I go buy their sweet potatoes. But guess what? I have not seen not one sweet potato from no Mennonite yet, because the Department of Agriculture came down here and told them they couldn't do it. So they're controlling the food. So there's that. So they've got control of those. And when you get control of these, you try to control it all, because they're actually going after trying to use and learn how Rockefeller got control, because that's what the government's trying to do. Safety would be roads, bridges, stuff like that you've really got to have. So they've got all of these. So what would be the fifth thing in there? Once they got control of this fifth thing, they would have total control of everybody that lives in America, wouldn't they? And that would be your health. Because they've got the drug to cure they've got the pill for your ill. And the only way you can get the pill for your ill is to depend on the government to do it. See, healthcare is just as vital to them as it is to you. It's more vital for them to be able to initiate this blatant takeover of our government that they want. They're using your health to take over everybody that comes past you, because they don't care about you. Remember when we heard about this? I don't care if I get pulled off, I don't give a shit. How about that? How about when this damn pandemic started, all they told us was it's going to kill all the old people, because that's what they wanted to kill. The very first statistic I heard after coronavirus had been around for 8 months was how many billions of fucking dollars they saved by people dying. That was the big news that I heard. That's the very first thing I heard that made such an impression on me, that said, oh, well, why the hell would that be your first statistic that you want out there? We saved, I think it was something like $8.6 billion or 1.8 or 6.8, something like that. That was the very first statistic I heard. But yet every country in this world had a mask on. And I could have told them all, masks don't stop shit. I've been in this industry 30 years. We have never worn masks. You wear a mask around TB patients because TB will kill your ass. And we know it will. But that's the only time I ever wore a mask around any respiratory infection, when flu season was at its worst. I remember 93, 94. That was the year that they missed every strain of flu in the shots. And we had a flu season where we had patients dying in the hallways. And it was bad for 3 months, but nobody had a mask on. So the people that did get the flu, that didn't get really sick, they were already immune to that flu. That's when natural immunity happened, Before the pandemic, we had natural immunity. And during the pandemic, we didn't have natural immunity. And now it's slowly returning. Apparently, natural immunity knows how to heal itself better than our damn government-funded healthcare does. You can basically, in my opinion, get rid of the Department of Education and the Department of Health, because they ain't doing nothing. Speaking of the Department of Health, if you follow my TikTok, I put a video out this week where I talked about the rabbit hole I had been down. Well, the rabbit hole I had been down has to do with 2 divisions of the Department of Health. There are 2 or 3 other content creators that I am friends with. And they are attacking the Child Protective Services sector. See, they've done a lot of research. They know what they're fixing to explode out. And if you get a chance to go hear her podcast, it's called Dark to Light. It's a D2L1111 on YouTube. I think it's Dark to Light on Rumble. Anyway, her moniker on TikTok is 2A Patriot Mama. You need to go listen to her latest episode and listen to what she's starting to talk about. She's been doing a lot of research. She's to be commended for what she's fixing to do, because she's fixing to tell the tale. She's fixing to tell the story. What I've been working on the same side of the Department of Health, who's supposed to have advocates for the vulnerable adults, is the Adult Protective Services. And that's a whole new different ball game there. And you're going to wonder where all the damn money's coming from and where is it going. Because that's what I did. And the deeper I went looking, the more specific it got, which made it harder to look for. But when you found the trail of money, you found out why. And, if you want to find out what's going on in healthcare, follow the money. It'll take you right to the source every single time.
Hey, do you want to join the revolution against tyranny? In the Gray State, you can learn how our forefathers' revolution began and how they changed their future and ours. Here you will learn if this is the direction of our country now. Join Big Dave on the Gray State Revolution podcast to find out. Available on Apple, iHeart, and Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts.
Until we decide as a people that we don't want our government telling us what to do. Until we decide as a people to start researching where our health care is coming from and where the dollars are going. We don't deserve any better than we've got right now. You are what you vote for, people. It is what you make it. You don't have a choice in your health care modalities because the government shut that off in the 19-teens. When you go to really do the research and you find out Flexner's report was BS, and it was only used so Carnegie and Rockefeller could monopolize an industry that they didn't look like a monopoly. Because they'd already figured out, this is how they split up my company. And Carnegie said, well, this is how they split up my company. So how do we stop them from splitting up this medicine thing we're fixing to get into? We changed the laws to fit it. And that's what they did. And it's worked. For this long, this is 2022, that was 1913. And yet, you still rules in there about your cancer treatment from 1913. They have to follow, or it's illegal if they don't. You ever wondered why? Oh, well, they have done all this research and study, and this is the best way to treat cancer. Well, there's people I know that didn't ever have any kind of cancer treatment. They took natural remedies that got better. And I always get that, well, we have to give that glory to God. And that's true. But you're going to have to give some credit to that sage he went to see. Or the Native American shaman that he went to see to get a tea from. And he drank the tea every day and eventually it shrunk and died. They got to get a little credit, right? It can't just be a miracle from God. Because I'm telling you, I've seen a lot. And a lot of it was they went to a treatment module that was outside of the norm, that was around before Rockefeller and Carnegie got into the medicine side of the business. They were around treating and healing folks way before then. And of course, that is from God. But it's a modern day miracle based on a 100-year-old principle. Or a 200-year-old principle. Or a 1,000-year-old principle. The more things change, remember, the more they stay the same. All I can see that healthcare has done, the modern healthcare system since Rockefeller and Carnegie, is they've destroyed people's lives. The government has come along and they decided in 2010 to 2012 that they were going to take over the healthcare system and they were going to help you. Ronald Reagan was right when he said the most dangerous words to come out of a person in government's mouth is, "We're from the government and we're here to help." You should run as fast as you can when you hear those words. You should not be running to a hospital to get a pill for your ill. A pill ain't going to fix everything. And it's sad to say it, and it's the way it is. But a pill don't fix everything. Because sometimes Forrest Gump had it right. Stupid is as stupid does. But you can't tell me that 100-year-old rules and regulations don't need to be changed. Can't tell that sick person out there they can't have this kind of treatment because your insurance company will refuse to pay if you go do that because it's illegal. But you think your health care is free and you think your decision is free. It's not. They've created you to decide that you have a choice in your health care, but you really don't. You have a choice in who you go see. You don't have a choice in your health care modality. You don't have a choice in the pattern that it takes because every doctor does the same thing. Well, this doctor did not. He did not treat my upper respiratory infection like this doctor does. I said, well, did he give you this medicine? Yes. Did he give you this medicine? Yes. Then what did this doctor do? Did he give you this medicine? Same one. When did he give you this medicine? Yes, he did. So the doctors treated you the same because the modality was the same. You don't like Dr. A because Dr. A just came in the room, gave you the treatment, and left. While as Dr. B came in, looked at you, talked to you, asked you about how your kids were, and then walked out of the room, and he gave you the same treatment, and you felt better about that. And it wasn't because the medicine was any better. It was because you felt like you had been treated. See, that's what old medicine was 130 years ago. That's what Doc Adams' medicine is. That's what you're looking for. You're not looking for a different modality. You're just looking for a different perspective. You're looking for a different view. You're looking for a coddle when you go. But as far as the medications and how they do it, it's identically the same. And why is it identically the same? Because John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie decided in 1913 that that's what you needed now. Doesn't make sense, does it? But you know the old adage we grew. Everybody figures that out. And until we get exactly what's going on, where our money's going, and why is it going here, and why ain't it being used for this, and why are all these drug companies doing this to our health care, then you'll know. Then you'll be aware.
You have been listening to the Healthcare Underground, a podcast dedicated to informing you of the white noise in politics and healthcare and helping you to redefine the trees in the forest. Join Big Dave again next week in the Healthcare Underground from Ridge Runner Studios.